Now we'll move to agenda policy. Our new attorney, who is here with us this morning, prepared a couple of, sent us a couple of documents from others that their firm had prepared for other clients of theirs. One was a city, one was a fire district. I looked at both of them. I talked to the chief about them. I went ahead and just redrafted the one regarding an agenda policy. I changed the dates because that was dealing with an agency that met more frequently than we do. They also apparently required a longer lead time on agenda items. You don't put something under theirs. The minimum time to put something on the agenda was 2 weeks before the meeting. That seemed a little long for us, even though we only meet once a month. But we've been accustomed to being able to get things on the agenda shorter time than that. So I adjusted it to essentially what we've have agreed to do in terms of the time. And this was obviously for a city, so it had reference to the mayor and the city clerk. I changed those titles to the fire chief and the board secretary. Beyond that, it just seemed to me a good idea to have a written policy on how things are placed on the agenda. So I did that to let you look it over and see if you like the idea. If so, either as it is, or I'm open to suggestion for changes. I didn't make this up. No need to reinvent the wheel when there's somebody out there doing that for us. I think it's a good service.
And these are the dates that we agreed on last month, the time limits and all, to give Missy and Chief appropriate time to cover. I have no problem with it.
It says that the agenda will be posted at 5 p.m. on Thursday. And that's the last day of the week that Missy works, so we wouldn't want to go to Friday.
Okay, so here's the thing here. It says that number 2, it says requesting a board meeting with the concurrence of one other board member that an item be placed on a future agenda.
That's new and different.
That's new and different. If a
the
board
other
member
agency
proceeds under option 1, the written request for the agenda item must be made to the fire chief no later than the agenda, whatever, Tuesday prior to the Tuesday meeting, with proof that one other board member consented to the item being placed on the agenda. So it's going to have to take 2 people now to put an item on the agenda, right?
If you agree to this, you're welcome to change that.
Jennifer, is that legal under the Brown Act? Because
It's 3 members, it's not a third one.
If you have 3...
the third is the board president, though.
Right, but all he's doing is submitting. Again, we're not discussing the item, and even with that second member, you're not discussing it. They're not agreeing to say whatever that item proposes. It's just, I agree this item should be placed on the agenda. So you're allowed to do that.
Okay.
Like the board president.
There's no discussion of it. Okay.
Right. It's just simply, hey, I want to put
And then if
on
2
the
people
agenda.
agree, it goes on. The chief and the president can't take it off. Because otherwise that would constitute a vote.
Right. It's just approving the request to get on the agenda, not approving the subject matter of the particular issue and the action that you're proposing or that a board member is proposing with their item.
But he still has to approve it being on the agenda. The 2 board members
Right,
have
I understand.
to agree, and then it
Just
goes
something
to the
about it
chief
seems
and
wrong to me.
It seems a little convoluted. And
We allowed to ask
It is.
questions? Why, if one board member has an item that he feels should be addressed to the rest of the board for consideration, why do you need two people from your board to put it on the agenda? Wouldn't one board member wanting information?
Five-person
Or
board.
one board member wanting
Yes.
to discuss an issue
Yes,
be
if
enough?
you'd like to make a motion that we change this,
Am I allowed to make a motion?
no?
So thank you.
But if one of the board members.
I'll make the motion
Uh,
that it should just be one person who should be able to put it on the agenda. That's 20% of the board.
Okay. Motion is made, is there a second?
Such a show of
Motion
support.
dies for lack of a second.
I have no problem with two people. It's not a matter of supporting one person
Well,
or
it's
the
just-
other. It's just, I think, just an accountability or whatever, so that we don't have 45 items
I just
on
see it
the
as being
agenda.
a hurdle, I mean, time constraints and things like that.
Yeah.
So it means ahead of time, two people have to get together and decide.
Right.
Then it has to be submitted to
Pat,
the
you don't
chief.
have the floor.
Then it has to be submitted.
It just means if he wants to put something on the other thing, or I would like to put something on it, I could shoot an email to him and say, I was thinking I'd like to put this on.
And
Do you have any
just-
problem with it being on the thing? And he's like, yay or nay. If he says nay, it's like, okay, I maybe overthought it. I have no issue with that,
Or-
so.
Uh, I'd suggest we just drop this item, since we obviously can't agree on it.
On what, this part?
No, the whole thing.
Oh, no, I don't think we.
I don't think we
I just
should.
think it's a good idea.
I think it's definitely a good idea to have a policy.
I think the policy is perfect. I kind
I
of
think-
agree.
It's been tried by other agencies, and this is what they've come up with.
Five-member boards, though, it seems,
They're almost all five-member boards.
Yeah.
Except for the city of San Diego.
Except for the city of San Diego.
Or 9.
I've been on a lot of other boards that are 12, so, 7, so I'm just, that's 20% of the people. You know, I agree we need a policy.
May I ask another question?
Yes.
Okay, the agenda policy provides that any member of the public can address the board, and then if two board members concur, it can be placed on a future agenda. So if someone who happens to be a member of the board, but they're also a citizen, can they take their role as citizen and say, I would like to discuss this with the board, and then put it on your next agenda?
I don't think so.
I don't think
I don't
so.
think so.
Well,
You
it
can't
says
be
any
both.
member of the public.
Yeah. Once you're a board member,
If
you're
they're
a
a
board
member of the
member.
public, they're a member of the public, and they're not a member
And
of
they're
the
no
board.
longer a citizen.
Oh,
Okay.
they're no longer.
No, they're not no longer a citizen.
They haven't
but
relinquished their
They don't still have
status.
the same rights
Yeah,
that
have-
citizens have. Our role changes
You're
when we
supposed to
become a board
represent
member.
the citizens.
That's correct.
So, if one board member has, I agree you need an agenda policy, but if one board member has a concern and he'd like to discuss it with the rest of the board, to
I
me,
think what,
going in secret and then trying to get another board member, that sort of defeats transparency or the ability of one board member to discuss an issue that maybe be relevant to the public.
could
All he
be.
has to do is get a second board member to agree to that. If you have three board members discussing a subject,
Which you
Which is
are,
very good, which is-
because you're
no.
discussing the
In-
agenda
No.
item
no,
with
That's what she
the-
said. All you're
with the
saying is
officer,
yes, it
and
can.
that's 3.
if you're going to go discuss an item, and this has happened in Julian, I've been an elected board member and working for boards for 40 years up here. You get two people together, that's perfectly legal. That's within the Browns and what they call the Brown Act, which is part of the government code, which
Yes, I'm aware of that.
says have how you have to do stuff. 3 people, it becomes a serial meeting. And that destroys all transparency because now you have a quorum with 3 people. And you're making decisions that aren't in front of the public like this.
All you're trying to do is get an item on the agenda for you to
All it
discuss.
takes is two people to agree, and then there it is.
And
Yep.
the person who,
No,
That's-
if
No,
those
no,
two
no.
people agree, they give it to Rick, Rick puts it on the agenda.
Puts it on the
Or Jack puts it
agenda.
on the agenda.
What if he doesn't agree?
Okay,
And I'm not considered part of the board. I'm
We're not
No.
discussing the matter, we're
but
just
it
saying,
says, requests for the agenda item, if made by two board members, still must be made to the chief. That's three.
He's the one that writes the agenda up.
Oh, so at that point,
Yes.
it's not optional for him to put it on the agenda. If two board members say, we'd like to discuss this,
It's on the
he's
agenda.
simply recording the
Right.
item on the agenda, not deciding
Right,
whether.
that's correct.
Oh, okay, thank you.
It says if he approves.
Well, that's what I,
The
that's
fire
number
chief-
one.
the fire chief is the CEO of the district.
But he's acting in a clerical capacity when he's adding it to the agenda.
That's correct.
Okay.
Pat?
I think that part of the statement is really directed directly at Brian, who keeps trying to bring up issues that nobody else will second, nobody else will agree to. And so you've got one board member that you're basically blocking off the board and not allowing to say anything, because unless he gets agreement from somebody else, it's not going on the agenda. So any of his ideas
If the,
could be.
it isn't-
Can I say
this
something
isn't
about
aimed at
that,
any-
and it may be inappropriate, I don't know. But a couple months ago, there was a lot of things added to the agenda. Some of the things he was asked to put on the agenda by others, even though his name was on there, and it ended up being stuff that wasn't even
Germaine.
like not appropriate in the appropriate sense, if that's not the right word. I have a serious migraine this morning, so I'm not going to come up with an exact example because I truly can't think of.
Well,
But there was something on there that had to do with the association buying a tender, and we have no business spending association money. That's up to the association. And there was a couple things,
And they were pulled from the agenda.
and they were pulled for the agenda. If another person says, "Hey, that really may be this, that, or the other," and it's like, "Oh yeah, I didn't think of that," and I'd be the first one to be like, "Oh man, I didn't think of that," because I do bounce things off people to make sure that, because I'm not 100% sure, this is the first board I've ever been on. So I like the idea of bouncing it off another person. Number one, so I wouldn't embarrass myself coming in, or that at least you have not an agreement, but at least you have someone on board, so to speak, with you when you go into that board meeting.
So that particular item, the water tender item, was an issue that was of concern to the community because the county had said, we're gonna pull the water tender.
I'm not getting
We're
in
gonna-"
discussion from an old thing. It was spending association money that we have no control over.
But that's why I brought it up,
The
was
attention
to,
on the item
Right.
on the
Yeah, we'll
agenda.
go
To bring
way
it
off
into
track.
the,
but I brought it up so the community would
You asked
know.
for an example. That's what the example that I was thinking. And then several items were pulled. So I think,
It may be coincidental.
Whatever.
he's being shut out.
I guess maybe the timing is bad. If it looks like this is
Yeah.
aimed at something that happened last month, it's not. It just happened to come from our attorney. It didn't come from her 2 months ago or 3 months ago or 4 months ago or next month or the month after. It happened to come in this last month, and I thought it was a good idea to have a policy, and so
No,
I
I don't believe
drafted one. I didn't draft it. I copied
a lot of it.
one that somebody else had did, and I have a suspicion that there are a lot of other agencies that have similar policies.
I have no
Agencies that I
problem
work for did. And they always required a second council member to concur to put something on the agenda. For the same very reason that Kirsten has pointed out. Sometimes a second
Set of eyes.
second set of eyes can point out to the person who wants to put something on the agenda that we just did that 6 months ago. Well, I wasn't here 6 months ago. Well, I'm just letting you know that.
The written request.
And it is intended to make the board meetings run more smoothly.
That's how I read it. I didn't look at it as a chastisement towards anyone or group, individual, or anything
Right.
else. I'm just,
If the fire chief
And it sets out the dates very clearly, so we all know if we want something on the agenda, when we need to get it, so that our staff can operate more function more efficiently.
Would you like a motion on this policy?
Can I
No.
ask
One way or the
question?
other, yes.
You
Can I ask
can't
one more
move, this
question?
is not a.
Can I ask one more question?
I can't? Why not?
Is there a motion
Can I ask a
dealing with
question?
this?
Karen wants to ask a question.
Aaron?
I just see the bottom part, if two board members, I'm asking as a citizen, so if the two board members say, yeah, that's a good idea to go on the agenda, but at the bottom of page 1, it says the fire chief, if the fire chief approves the written request, does that keep it from going on the agenda if he doesn't approve it?
The intent of that is that the chief can prevent something going on the agenda that is suggesting we do something unlawful. We don't. That's where the screen has to occur. Otherwise, it
So
comes
it's
on
just
the
a-
agenda and we say, we can't do that because it's against the law.
Okay.
Well, why is it even on the agenda?
Right,
Because the
Well, that
chief
makes sense, but-
messed up and allowed it to get on the agenda. This says he has the right to keep things like that off the agenda.
that
This is
type of thing,
clear.
That's right.
but nothing in general, like if the board
No,
wants to.
No.
that's what the clerical part is.
Okay,
Yeah. Maybe change
What
that
if-
one word, make it a clerical
Ready to make
definition
a motion?
versus.
Yeah, I'd like to make, I've read through this policy, it's, real similar to the policy that I work with, the Julian Community Services District, which has had this policy in place in 1965. So, I have no problem with this, it makes an operation makes meetings go a whole lot smoother. So I'd like to make a motion to adopt this agenda policy.
There's a second to the motion.
I'll second it.
Motion made and seconded that we adopt this as the agenda policy for the district. Any further discussion? Or have we beaten it to death? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no.
No.
Any abstentions? Motion carries 4-1.